not really happy.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't do this whole. Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking person on that. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-vim.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, you go. Cancel. I'm a tag, Jack. I'm a fucking tag.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. We are back after our 2-week bye week. Wouldn't the NFL players just love that, Chris? And yeah, Chris is back as well. Actually, this must have been a month now since your last show, because I remember the one before the bye week, so I did on my own because your sister's wedding, of course.
Yes.
So
yes, that was coming up for a month now. Yes,
Yeah.
and so that was the 5th. So yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but you know, things have happened in the meantime.
They have.
And I guess we're going to talk about those today.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, obviously we're not going to make an effort to recap everything that's happened in the few weeks we've been off, but we can touch on some bits. Obviously we all do with the records and whatnot. And but yeah, we'll obviously do the full recap of last week and yeah, the preview and everything is normal. So like you say, Chris, let's just let's get straight into it with last week's recap. And in order for that, we need the recap music, which is here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will start off with what I would have chosen as the marquee matchup, or what we may have chosen as the marquee matchup last week. It's a good one to start with, which was Bare Necessities against Tom's Tyrants, two of the highest scoring teams. I believe Tom's Tyrants was possibly leading the division. I can't quite recall, but they were amongst it. Entering last week, and again, Bare Necessities, I can't remember if they were leading their division either. If not, they would have been damn near close, and they've been one of the highest scoring teams too. It was quite an exciting game, but Bare Necessities took it 116-95, and they extend their win streak to 2. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants drop a couple on the bounce, which again, given how good they've been, is a mild surprise. And if we look down the lineups, I mean, it's pretty much as you'd expect it from what my dad's team, from what it has been. Obviously, he's got that good stable of running backs, although Monty didn't turn up on the day. Josh Allen obviously had a decent day as well. On the other side, I suppose the talking point for this one, Chris, now it may not have necessarily made the difference all on its own, but Jaden Daniels obviously getting that rib injury could have been the difference in this one, especially with a soft matchup against Carolina.
Well, I mean, clearly, Marcus Mariota came in and absolutely striped the Panthers. But yes, I agree. I think that is obviously a significant thing. I think the Deontay Johnson, the honeymoon period for all Panthers players is over, clearly. Mm-hmm. And we see there a pretty disgusting 23 points on the bench there for Rachaad White. So yes, unfortunately, that be the difference. I mean, say you have to think there is 22 points. I mean, you think it's probably gonna get around that, but yes, not so good there. But for Dave, once again, carrying on with his formidable team because. Reasonably formidable this year. Derrick Henry is, the fantasy stud muffin we thought he might be. But Joe Mixon's there as well, hanging on to his coattails. And this team does have some pretty huge big playability. But yes, when you have 3 of those, Allen, Henry, and Mixon, and David Montgomery, who only scored 5 points this week because of injury.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to consider that as a pretty formidable 3 in the league.
I mean, and you got to look he's got Brian Robinson as his 4th running back. I think Brian Robinson would be a week in, week out start for a lot of other teams in the league. But this team, he's almost maybe he should have played him over Montgomery again in that Minnesota matchup. But I can't really fault him too much for it. Like you say, injury was more the role there because Gibbs had a good day. So
absolutely. So to me, these 2 teams that we should be looking out for as the season progresses. Obviously, we're coming up for the halfway mark now, so far they've shown themselves to be pretty worthy candidates. I think of teams that will be knocking on the playoff door.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in fact, we're entering. I suppose we're bang bang at the halfway mark in terms of the regular season, technically. So, going week 7 to week 8. Bare necessities are now 8-8 all time against Tom Starrett, so they level up the series with that one as well. Another really good game against two potential playoff teams, because I think the Dream Team were leading their division entering this one with a 2-game win streak. Against you, Chris, Fudge Flyers, who not leading the division, I don't believe, but or you may actually know, you probably were last week because you had the high scoring team, as we know and still do, I believe. You lost a bit of a nail biter. Every week, I swear, this season we have had ridiculously. I can't remember a season like this where week in, week out, we have had literally at least one game come down to single digits, and it's usually been quite close single digits, and in some cases of the weeks, it's been multiple. So. Yeah, I mean, you just get outscored in this one. It's no fault in your team. Dream Team wins the third on the trot, and you look down the lineups. I mean, Lamar Jackson, you kind of said it a few weeks ago, probably in one of your last episodes. He's very much teed up to be the QB1 this season, and he's led the way for Viv a lot of this season. He beat me a few weeks ago as well when Lamar just had that bananas day against Cincinnati. So, and that really was the difference in this one, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, you're dead right saying you're right in your assessment as well, because I think the outset of the season, I think Lamar was the one who was probably going to have the most jump in terms of, or at least I thought so anyway, in terms of fantasy relevance, and he has certainly repaid that faith. But it's not just that. This is an impressive win for Viv, because yes, Lamar scored 44.5 points. Which in anyone's book is an extremely good score. But when you look down there even more, AJ Brown has scored 15, Najee Harris 16.2, Fairbairn even in the double figures, Eagles D23. He can score 121 and carrying a player. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously playing 2 Jets, which is a bold move as well, but actually the right one within that too. So again, There's nothing I can say on this one to say that he didn't deserve it, because when you've got a fantasy weapon like Lamar Jackson, you're gonna lean on him, mm-hmm. and he did. But for my team, I still think that this team is one of the better ones I've ever composed. I have to say, the fact that throughout this team there's some serious quality, so mm-hmm. when you consider. Obviously, they got who each there has blown up. I say Jamar is there as well, who took a bit of time to get going, but now has, and Jordan Love seems to be a beacon of consistency and excitement, which has led this team to 7 straight 100-point plus wins. So, not wins, but scores. Let's go with scores. So we're going to take that. But yeah, again, congratulations to Viv. I really, really think that team on its day, if it can get all of its components going, could be very dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a bit thin behind the starting lineup. And Dell, obviously, outside of the one game, really, obviously hasn't hit the numbers so far, and he's got a bit of a. I mean, we know probably he'd be open to a trade if someone came in for Wilson or Adams, because I don't imagine he's too thrilled out about having both Jets receivers. But it's still a good starting lineup all the same, like you say. But yeah, your team, I mean, like you say, you have definitely composed an extremely good team. You are sort of unfortunate that Flowers got injured, I think, didn't he, in last week's game?
He did get injured early.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, if not for that, he would almost certainly have gotten some more points in Lamar's explosion, and you would have taken the victory here. But in terms of coaching, you can't fault either side of the teams here. So so Viv just on to 5-2. You're 4-3 in the history of this matchup all time. You are now 7-10 all time against Viv, Chris.
Yeah. Dave,
sorry.
Dave and Viv, go and speak to one another. Go and get Brian Robinson for Garrett Wilson needs to happen right now.
And I think Viv would very much be winning that trade with the Brian Robinson side. I don't mind Wilson as the second fiddle to Adams, but I don't think that's an even trade. I get my dad's team needs a receiver, but
exactly. He's living on the bench.
I don't know. I'd want a little more, I think, if I was my dad. But anyway, as you say, they can discuss that between themselves. We'll go to Oakland Golden Bears. against Le Creuset. Is that how you pronounce that particular brand?
Le Creuset.
Le Creuset, yeah, I got it. Le Creuset vying, with both the Tom's Tyrants and the Forge Flyers. Lost that actually opened up the window for them to take supremacy in the division. Meanwhile, Freddie's obviously still trying to find his footing in the LOC. As a couple of wins to his name. I was thinking 2-4 entering this one. It was another rough day, unfortunately. Not a great day for both teams, really, as Coach Gardner Meadows took this one 76 to 66. Looking down the lineups, I mean, nothing really too special to call out for Le Creuset, but also nothing too significantly bad. Just really, it was probably, if anything, the special teams just disappointed. Otherwise, it's probably as you'd expect. And then for Freddie's team, outside of Kareem Hunt and the special teams, not much to speak of. It was a pretty poor day all around, but we know Freddie's struggling a bit talent-wise, given some injuries and whatnot so far this season, Chris.
Yes, I agree. I think, to be honest with you, this was not a performance worthy of the absolute king of kitchen stoneware, by the way. The Creuset, wow, that's it. You gotta love it. No, that's it. So it was a bit. It was not a game full of quality, as you mentioned. Jalen Hurts did well, I would say. In fact that there is a 9-point difference. I'm looking down here thinking, where's the 9 points? And it's in defense, of course. It's Freddie's upside down team is a weird one there. But fair play. There's some shoots of positivity there. Kareem Hunt is obviously the number one shoot of positivity.
Yep.
But yes, when your kicker and defense and your next two biggest scoring players, not great.
No.
But I would say for Ollie, yes, quarterback's done well. Drake London's done all right in a beatdown defeat. But you're right. Aside from that, there ain't a lot to write home about. Fair enough. McLaurin's got some decent yardage. Hubbard might be our most improved player of the year so far.
Yeah. He was a nice late round draft pick, to be fair, because Jonathan Brick's still not back, and even like you said, with the Panthers' offense sort of imploding, he's actually seemed to retain some value, which wasn't the case at the start of the year when Bryce Young was there. So
exactly, but I can't get very excited about, and I hope that you have the jingle ready to go, Nath. We're going to be getting this a few times in this little section, because I can't get very excited about a 75-point, 66-point win for obvious reasons. Take it away, Maestro.
Oh yeah, it's the music's going. It's don't worry. It was undercurrenting you nicely there when you asked for the cues. So
I'm glad about that. And I have to say, keep it up for the next few, because there's a few more of these still to come.
You know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it going in the background here. It should be coming okay audio-wise. That was Ollie's first win against Freddie, by the way, because it's obviously the first time they played. We can definitely have the scumbag music for this one as well. Buck in the Trend took on Hunter's Chicken. Both these teams sort of middling. Mike won it 78 to 63, so they're both now at 3-4. History of their matchup all time. Mike is now 5-2 against Ross's team all time, and looking at the teams, just nothing particularly special on either side. A couple of players let down. I suppose more of Ross's side, it's a bit more bleak viewing outside of Burrow and Jefferson, but apparently that's all the scumbag music we're getting. That's apparently how long I clipped the jingle to. 1 minute. That's good to know for future, but very much why they're still being played on this game, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So deserve. We looked at three very good running backs in a couple of teams previously. We then have the other end of that spectrum where Ross has Stevenson, Singletary, and Nick Chubb. That's taken a bit of a dive straight away. Mike's team, on the other hand, I think that actually if he looked at it a bit more and actually played Amari Cooper, that would be better. Because that's really quite a decent person to have on your bench.
I can't fault him for not playing him in his first game with the Bills. I mean, it's...
against the Titans. I don't know.
The Titans have been a pretty good pass defense, although Did Snead miss that game in the end? Because I know... I may have played him with Snead being out, so...
The answer is you've got to do it now. But, I think that team's got a bit more in it than that is proving. Obviously, the Jets D got absolutely wiped as well, so might want to have a look at that. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be too bad, and I think that's probably why they're 3-4. But Ross's team is hanging on by Burrow and Jefferson, really.
Yeah, especially with getting injured in this one as well. It's pretty barren. He's going to need Chubb to roll back the years, I think, for any sort of potential turnaround here. Otherwise, it's pretty dire viewing. Like you say, yeah, Mike. And Bulkle, like, I like it. Like, Mike has listened to the advice of what we said on the LOC Fantasy Show and avoided the bang average squared Patrick Mahomes fantasy quarterback in favour of Geno Smith, which is gutsy, and it absolutely paid off for him. So it's where credit is due. And then the next one here we've got, again, another barn burner, and actually I forgot to play this one for you, Chris, but Ben's going to get the old buzzsaw, because he was on the end of, again, it's quite a dichotomy in this week, because Ben was one of 6 teams to go over 100 points, and obviously, is it 6? No, 5, sorry, 5. One of 5 teams to go over 100 points, and he was one of the 2 of those to lose, you being the other one, obviously, to Jeff, 126 to 109, lifting Jeff to 4-3 and Ben to 3-4. Again, injuries could have potentially played a role in this one. DK Metcalf got injured during the game. Chris Godwin, I suppose that was the final play, actually, so probably not so much there. And on the other side, obviously, Mike Evans as well, also getting a hamstring injury. Some juicy play of Tanks Bigsby for Jeff. Obviously, the Broncos D coming up huge. Those 2 things you probably point to as being the difference here, I think.
I think so, yeah. We have to say, this is, again, we talk about engine rooms a lot. This is the 3 running backs set in on. This might be the most underrated engine room of them all. Javonte, Breece Hall, and Tank Bigsby. Wow, now. If you'd said that to me 3 weeks ago, I might not have said that. But, they've all come up trumps here. We're not talking about Trump on this podcast. Yes. And obviously Kyler's seemingly quite consistent. Broncos D, as you say, turned the corner. So, it's turned into like a... And this is what happened to Jeff's season last season, is that it just kind of got to a point where it ignited. But it's clear that the receiver, that's a problem. And looking to the bench,
he's getting Cup back, which is going to alleviate some of that issue. But
I think that might be useful. Yes,
and then he'll probably just roll with Reed. I'm not sure what Reed's injury is exactly, but I know he's being a bit dinged up week after week. So,
whilst for Ben, the Baker Mayfield stream is still going. And still going strong, quite clearly.
Well, up till this week at least. Maybe not so much now that he's lost his top 2 receivers. We'll see.
You say that, but he's played with adversity before, and he's playing Atlanta. I mean, Christ now. So you never know. But yeah, I'd say that to have found the second overall fantasy quarterback off the waivers. Was extremely useful. And it's clear that Saquon's been a real cornerstone of this team as well. But can we talk about some disgusting streams like Evan Ingram and Jerry Jeudy, who's still hanging around there on that team? Just no. So I know that he's picked up Hopkins though.
No, but I'm not going to spoil the transactions section, but we'll come on to that in a bit.
Right, so but yes, there are other better options on there, I would say, and the 17 points from Austin Seibert were useful.
Yes, certainly yes, they were useful. But Ixan is now 1-2 all time against GF's team, so yeah, Jeff rolls on. And then last game of the week, unfortunately this one had the lowest score of the week with my team, which has been very much... Sorry, what's up?
The less said about this game, the better.
Agreed on all counts, to be quite, because it's not been a great year for me so far, which is annoying because my team hasn't... I might get into it, we all know the story. Pat wins this one 85-38. Stroud and Hill didn't get me off to a good start. Apparently, Steve Samuel had pneumonia, which feels like something that should be reported on, before a game,
Yep.
but never mind. And I had the classic, Jordan Whittington, he's active and actually not healthy or shouldn't be active at all, so that was fun. And then Carty somehow getting me 0 points, but the Rams D bailed me out big time. So
the Rams D, and this would have been, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this would have been, without the Rams D, the lowest score we've ever seen.
yes, yeah, we've had. I'm pretty sure there's been less than 38 at least on one occasion. Yeah, I don't believe we had a sub 30 week, which this absolutely could have been because it was just. Even my 2 good players in Dobbins and Mason obviously just had a bad day, which is fine if the rest of your team is doing anything, not when the rest of them seem to die. But the Rams did not die, so that's fine. Reasonable day for Pat, though. Let's talk about the positive side of this game. Very fortunate with who he played, obviously, but to be fair to Pat, he would have beaten 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 teams other than myself in the league, so it wasn't like it was a complete joke. You do not get the scumbag music, Pat. You hit the magical 80 number, so you avoid that. Disgrace.
In the mid-80s is acceptable.
And I need to either stop going to the games in London or deliberately schedule the teams I play to not have London players because I'm sick of watching myself get rinsed by them.
Yeah, I mean, you go for the experience.
It kind of ruins the day, I'm going to be quite honest. Like
bitter taste in your mouth after that one, I'm not going to lie. No, but you're right there. I mean, say, writing yours off as the absolute Armageddon week.
Yeah.
Pat's skill positions there are just about hanging in there. But yeah, Brian Thomas and James Conner, the 2 highest scorers, obviously for him in the week. I think Brian Thomas has been a really good find and is getting more used every week and might be the only flashpoint in that Jags offense right now. And
Bigsby's been good.
Of course, yes, and Bigsby as well. You're right. But yes, I can't remember the last time that the Jags had a dominant receiver.
No, not in that. I mean, God, I'm trying to cast my mind. Well, was there that year with Blake Bortles? Did he make someone who was a bit quite relevant, like DJ Chark? No, he wasn't like dominant.
Yes. DJ Chark, but I'm not going to go with dominant, but at least he was relevant. I agree.
I think before that, the only one I can think of is the infamous Justin Blackman, because he was pretty good there for a minute, wasn't
he? He was when he played.
Yeah.
I think he was even on the fantasy site for a long time.
Yeah, because he had this weird thing where he was on like one of the like suspended lists or something, so like he was actually still like an active player technically.
He would just get done for drugs every year, and then hang around on the site.
It's a shame. Him and Josh Gordon, they came out of college 10 years later. They would just be elite receivers because it's all legal and fine now. Obviously, it's a victim of the times. So anyway, Pat goes to 4-3, and I go to 1-6 in the history of this matchup all time now. Gridiron Gang is now 9-4 all time against Pakistan. So Pat gets one on me. So that is it for the recaps. Let's do the old around the league thing. Why not? See what rando stats that throws up this week. What we got here? So Tom Starrance has now beaten their projected score 5 weeks in a row. Nicely done, Tom. You have beaten your projected weekly score every matchup this season, Chris. That's pretty nifty. So you can bank the over on whatever you're projected to score this week. Ben Necessities continues to fight opponents, also beat their projected score 5 weeks in a row. Pakistan, this is very unimaginative this week around the league. Pakistan has beaten their projected score 4 weeks in a row. You know what? When this is a stat, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think there might be something wrong with the projections, just putting it out there. Teams have won 75% of the time when starting the leagues. Top scoring QB of the week, 3-1 overall, makes sense. Le Creuset is on a 3-game winning streak. The Dream Team is on a 3-game winning streak. And teams with the top 5 scoring running back went 2-2 overall this week. That's quite interesting, actually. But I suppose there were obviously a couple of teams, you and Ben, who had really good scores, who obviously faced another team that had a really good score. So that obviously may have something to do with it. So that is that. We will now go on to the league news.
We will.
Chris needs to step away for a second, but that's okay because I will talk through some injuries. So Tua Tagovailoa has now been activated or cleared the concussion protocol, I should say. So yeah, he is now cleared to return. for this week's game and should be out there playing. Big for Pakistan in more ways than one. He's going to have a quarterback back. He's going to hopefully have an improved Devon Achan from his perspective. And he also has Jalen Waddle, so that's positive. So positive for him, positive for me. I've got Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert, so hopefully that helps both of our teams out. And by God, could I do with it, to be honest. Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL and I believe MCL as well. So he is done for the season for Ross's team, as we saw. Not really a loss Ross could incur, but that's how it goes as we know in fantasy. Juju Smith-Schuster, similar to Jordan Whittington, he played, clearly wasn't healthy, or was active, clearly wasn't healthy. The Chiefs last week, I believe he's already been ruled out for this week with a hamstring, so yeah, it could be missing some time. And obviously with DeAndre Hopkins being there now too, yeah, that could spell a poor outlook for his future. Mike Evans also with a hamstring injury. Todd Bowles has already seemingly ruled him out for multiple weeks for them, so that's a worry for Great Scott. Jameson Williams, he's been suspended also for Great Scott, so he could have been one of the replacements there, but not for the next couple of weeks, so he got suspended for some sort of PED thing. It was only a 2-game suspension, so I believe that more relates to when paperwork has been filled for something that's like a prescription thing, but it wasn't done correctly or something like that, so not a serious infraction necessarily, but unfortunate for him and for Jeff. And also, it was the week of receiver injuries, clearly. Chris Godwin broke his ankle for the Bucks right near the end of the game for Exxon as well. So that's obviously going to be a blow to the outlook for Ben's team there. In terms of, I'll tell you what, we'll do the standing stats and milestones. We'll come back to the transactions. So in terms of standings in the Southampton division, the Crusade, Coach Garden Beddoes side, is at 5-2 at the moment. They're the second seed overall. Leading up with a win over Forge and Tom's Tyrants at 4-3, so it's pretty hotly contested so far. Gridiron Gang obviously back at 1-6. The Dream Team in the Postal Division leading that up at 5-2 as well. Pakistan behind them 4-3. Ixan and Buck in the Trend both 3-4, so everyone's still really very much alive in this division. So we'll see what happens there. And then the Winchester Division, 2 4-3 teams tying up at the top. Ben Necessities leading on points with about 80-point advantage over Great Scott. And then we've got Hunter's Chicken at a fairly generous, you might say, 3-4. And Oakland Golden Bears at 2-5. So again, still reasonably competitive, still a bit to play for, but the points lead for Ben Necessities obviously will be something that the other teams in the division will need to overcome should they want to topple them. If we look at the standings and how things shake up today, so obviously the Dream Team, Le Creuset, and Ben Necessities would be your division winners. We would have Forge Flyers in the traditional wildcard spot, having the next best record as well as being the highest scoring team in the league still. And then behind that, I believe it would be Tom's Tyrants at 8 points effectively, taking the points forward wildcard as well. So let's toggle this to the high scoring teams. So again, as I say, Forge Flyers at the top, Ben Necessities, Tom's Tyrants, and then the Dream Team at 4th as well. And the Crusade at 5th. So 3 of those teams leading up their divisions, and the other 2 obviously hotly contested in the playoff race, which we like to see as well. And if we go towards the bottom, all of them with winning records. Bottom 4 is Freddie's team with 559. He's in last place in terms of points scored. Bucking the Trend, Hunter's Chicken, and my team and Ben, we're all around the high 500 mark. Obviously, my team plummeted like a stone, unfortunately, with my low points last week. I was still in with a shout of the points forward wildcard, I'd say, until last week, but that one's probably, well, maybe not killed me, but it's a big setback, obviously. And then the rest is pretty much as you'd expect it as well. If we look at points against, Forge Flyers overcoming the vast points against they've conceded to hold a 4-3 record still. Same with Tom's Tyrants. To be honest, my team in 3rd here, so obviously this 1-6 record is not entirely deserved, given that. And obviously my team has had a poor mismatching, or a poor matching, I should say, in terms of weeks when I've scored well, when I've also played good scoring teams. 0-3 when I've scored 100 points this season, and then it craters when I get a winnable game, but that's how it goes, obviously. Jeff's considered reasonable. There's an interesting trend here that actually a lot of the winning teams, other than mine, considered quite a lot. It's not too often you see that. Then you go towards the bottom. There are obviously a couple of teams here. Chris just rejoining us there, like the Dream Team and the Crusade, who have conceded a lower amount of points and obviously benefiting in the records from that. But we still do have a good number of teams that have conceded a ton, but also their records are holding up there as well. And then Pakistan, Benicestes and Ross's team all at the bottom there, having a very generous points against trend so far. If we look at the breakdown, so Chris, no surprises, you're leading this one as the highest scoring team at 59 and 18, a whole 11 wins ahead of my dad's team, the second best team at 48 and 29, and there's a bit of a group sort of from there down to Jeff, who are above 500 in varying degrees there. We go to the bottom. Yeah, not all of these things are equal. Again, despite me being 1 and 6, I have a 33 and 44 record with the breakdown. Obviously, the 0 and 11 last week's really rubbished that for me. But obviously, a fair few teams below me who all have at least 2 or 3, if not 4 wins. 2 or 3 wins, yeah, with Hunters Chicken Eggs and Bucking the Trend and Oakland Golden Bears. In terms of coach rankings, Pat remains top. So Pat's doing a pretty good job of keeping the points on the field so far, less than 50 conceded through 7 weeks. Ross's team, obviously, as we know, typically the case for Ross's team, usually more about less talent on the bench as opposed to him being a masterful team selector. Viv doing pretty good in this metric as well. We have a bit of a middle pack here, then we go towards the bottom. If we look at the bottom, despite leading the division, Coach Gardner Beddoes has the most points on the bench with 124, Ixan 119, Great Scott 116. He's obviously tied for a division lead. My team as well. I could have obviously done with some of those points on the starting lineup, not on the bench, to help keep me alive for the points forward wildcard, but it is what it is. So not else too much going on there. We will go to the transactions now. Chris, I went through the injuries, but I wanted to save the transactions for you because, yeah, this was a bit of a perplexing thing for me. So on Wednesday morning, I think Ben dropped DeAndre Hopkins for Calvin Ridley, so obviously upgrading to the new Titans receiver because you'd obviously dropped Ridley, and then Viv added DeAndre Hopkins this morning for $17, dropping Kyle Pitts. I would love to know if Ben saw the trade news about DeAndre Hopkins before he made this transaction, because when I saw it, I scratched my head and was like, what on earth is he thinking, adding Calvin Ridley for DeAndre Hopkins, who finds himself now as a Chief? But I very much wonder, did Ben see the news before he did this?
I'm almost certain that he did not, because otherwise that would have not happened. And besides, Calvin Ridley, as good a player as Calvin Ridley is, and I like Calvin Ridley a lot, absolutely fuck all for about 4 weeks. So, I hope that Ben can sort of rejuvenate his career. But, at the same time, I think that's bad business. For $17 though, anyone out there who actually needs a player rather than Viv, who arguably doesn't,
I think Viv could do with him. His bench is not that flush with talent, and he's obviously starting the 2 Jets receivers as well. So I think it's a good addition to potentially mix in.
I mean, it's a good addition for any team. It's a good addition for anyone who wants a starter. And I'm amazed that people didn't try and break the bank for him, to be honest. But
I thought about it. I was just going to bring up on the app the waiver report, because I think there were 5 teams overall. I'll just get it here in a second that went for him in varying degrees. I nearly went a bit higher. You were one of those teams. So Viv won it with 17. I bid 15, so Viv basically just pipped me. You bid 13. Tom bid 11. My dad bid 7 and Jeff bid 2. So that was actually 6 teams in total, wasn't it? Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was the low bid.
Nobody in the bottom half bidding crazy numbers. Okay, fair enough. I mean, to me, I'm not sure about that. But fair play, Viv. You got yourself a player there, and we'll see if he can roll back the years somewhat. But it's a useful player to have. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, so we saw obviously Rashee Rice was probably the bright spot for the Chiefs offense, the only really good receiving option, and then obviously Juju had that one good game. It's sort of hard to predict because I guess Kelsey's obviously become a bit more prevalent now, but like you say, I think it's gonna be more about Hopkins as opposed to, because insert good wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs. I think we've already seen this season they can be supported, but is Hopkins good enough to or is it going to be just spread around and it's going to be the Travis Kelce leading up show again?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think ultimately they do need someone on the outside, but yeah, I think for him, he's been around a bit the last few years. There's still some obvious talent there, but woefully underused by the Tennessee Titans, mind you. So yes.
Yeah, indeed. There was a few other sort of interesting transactions. Nothing I really wanted to particularly go through. Obviously, with the Bucks receiver injuries, both Jalen McMillan and Sterling Shepard got added. I think some of the other kind of guys that have been scoring on the waiver wire, like Rashad Bateman, have been added recently as well. But but nothing else too significant to call out. So we'll mosey on. In terms of the milestones, so the only milestone to call out is Viv has overtaken Tom on the all-times win list now, so Viv moves up to 5th. That's happened in the last few weeks over Tom, who drops to 6th. In terms of trade block, so I presume Viv still has Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams in the trade box, so go talk to him if you want either of those guys. The trade deadline is, I checked, scheduled for the 22nd of November, so still have a month to get those trades in if you would like to do so. I was going to say, I've got it written down in the note, check out the power rankings when they land, but yeah, I keep meaning to message someone saying where the power rankings are, because we have not had one since before the season, so, we'll go on to debate corner now anyway, so for that we need, John. John, would you like to usher us into the corner, please?
Order.
Thank you, John. He's trying to support the government and saying they did not, in fact, try to endorse Kamala, despite what Trump was saying.
I'm glad that the Labour Party are sticking to their truth and what they know, and they're actually going to go support the right horse in the race. But again, we were completely impartial to the Americans here, so
yes.
But I don't think Trump's going to win.
We'll see. It's a really hard thing to predict because, obviously, you look at the bookies and you can't go off the bookies necessarily because it's obviously a user-driven market, and obviously they've got Trump as the favourite, albeit it's not too significant. The polls are all basically toss-ups, but if you followed any American politics over the last 10 years, polls have actually been very not useful for the last number of years. So it's a really hard thing to kind of call. And again, depending where you take your news or whatever, it seems to suggest. I agree with you for what it's worth. I think Kamala probably will win, but it's really difficult to sort of know what's going on there.
Yeah, you never know quite what chaos is going to happen, which is going to be interesting because I'm going to Washington DC in a month's time.
Wow, yeah, that could be that's very. So, that's where the timelines split, and it's a very different trip, one way or the other for you, depending what timeline we're in.
So yeah, watch this space. It's going to be fun, but yeah, I think that it's going to be. And this is sort of diverging from the subject of this podcast quite significantly.
It's debate corner. It's fine.
But yeah, we can debate that. So yeah. But I think that Trump's hitting a particular demographic quite hard. That's the reason why he's getting on Joe Rogan very soon.
Didn't Joe Rogan come out and basically say he wasn't supporting him a few months ago? Was that Joe Rogan?
He's giving him a platform now.
Okay. Wow. Anyway, it's interesting. This election cycle.
As you would for pure business, of course, you give them a platform.
Yes.
But when you give the platform to various people like Elon and Trump and Jordan Peterson and people like that, it's like there's a particular there's a particular shift going that way, and it's targeting either young or single or both men.
Yeah.
So, again, disaffected voters, but we'll see.
Indeed. And the actual debate corner topic for today, Chris, is if you had to pick a well, we're halfway through, so if you had to pick a Corona Bowl winner today, who is it?
It's me. No, I don't know.
You are the holder of the wild card at the moment, and you have the backup of the points forward wild card too. So
I say that with a little bit of tongue in my cheek, but I don't really, because I do think my team is good.
It is.
And it's consistently good. But in terms of big playability, which it has done, it has been beaten by teams that do possess that. So I think, you look around, you see somebody like your dad's team, for example. Dave's team is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of what damage it can do quite quickly, it doesn't really need its whole team to be able to do it. It's got those three. It's got Allen. It's got a receiver, which might work out. But look, I'm going to back myself here, Nath. I'm going to back myself, as dangerous as that sounds.
No, you're the highest scoring team. I think that's
High scoring points against as well as
Yeah.
as I've just noticed as well. So it's a resilient team nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're still going for the 100 points in the season record. So let's do it.
There you go. I think I meant to check actually. I need to see if your points hold. I think because I think I set the record last season for highest points in the super flex format in a season with 1570.84. And you're at the moment at what, 769, so you're running not far off that, but definitely within the realms of possibility that you could top that. So that is just testament to, yeah, like you say, how good your team has been, especially with the points against. I'm going to go through this a bit more scientifically. So I think at the moment, realistically, there are 7 teams that you would say are likely to make the playoffs, being La Creuset, your team, Tom's Tyrants, the Dream Team, Pakistan, Benacistis, and Great Scott. I'm going to discount a couple here. Let's go through them. I like Pat's team. Maybe the two are getting back and obviously HM picking up. It could improve a bit, but he has benefited from the low points against, and the points forward haven't been particularly brilliant, so I can't see him necessarily winning it. Equally, Viv's team, I think Lamar's hiding a lot of sins for him lately. As brilliant as Lamar is, we know Lamar likes to drop a clunker here and there. That's probably, well, not going to be enough to maybe keep him out of the playoffs. We'll see. But, you know, if it happens during the playoffs, that could be curtains for Viv. So I'm going to discount him on that basis, especially with the current roster composition of the 2 Jets receivers and whatnot. Let's see. I think I'm going to discount Le Creuset as well. I think, again, somewhat fortunate to be leading our division. He's got the lowest points against out of the 4 of us. He's got, other than my team, the lowest points forward out of the 4 of us as well. So the 3rd highest scoring team in the division. It wouldn't surprise me if both you and Tom overtook him, and then he's potentially not in the running for the points forward wildcard there as well. So that leaves you, Tom, my dad's team, and Jeff. Again, Jeff, he's doing okay, and like you said, he had the second half burner last year, but again with losing Mike Evans for a number of weeks, and he has got the good few running backs. I don't know, they're not the best trio in the league though, so again I think if you put him toe to toe against some of the other teams, again I'll knock him out as well. So that leaves Benacistis, Tom's Tyrants, and you, Chris. Again, I'm going to discount my dad's team, going through process of elimination here, because at the moment the 2 receiver spots, I know George Kittle's been on a heater, but we know what Titans are like. They can just disappear at a minute's notice. Despite how good the 3 running backs, and he's got Robinson obviously as well, it's not the top to bottom strongest roster. So that leaves yours and Tom's team. And yeah, I think I'll probably just default and go with your team as well, Chris, to be honest, after all of that. So you can't overlook...
It's the same gut feeling as we got. So there we go. Consensus in debate corner.
Consensus in debate corner. There are a few good teams that it would not surprise me if you, at this point, Tom's Tyrants or Benacistis won it. I think those are the 3 most likely teams from where I sit today. And then maybe the dream team, if obviously Lamar does keep up the rate he's on. It's just going to be too much potentially to overcome. So
let's be frank. Tom's Tyrants and Benacistis are overdue.
Very much, yes.
Some time overdue as well. So.
At least Tom's won it twice, albeit you're right. The last one was 2014, I think, wasn't it? So some time ago. But yes, Dad is very much due. That is debate corner. We will go on to the previews now then. So for this week's matchup, so we are outside of the divisions. So we have Gridiron Gang against Oakland Golden Bears. That is the toilet bowl, effectively, at this point. We have Tom's Tyrants against the Dream Team, which is, speaking of Corona Bowls, the Corona Bowl 6 rematch. We have Benacistis against Forge Flyers, which is a Founder Bowl. Obviously, 2 of the winning... In fact, that one and the last one, obviously, featuring 2 potential playoff teams, or... at this point, or seeded playoff teams at this point. Pakistan against La Creuset. Again, that's a division leader against a 4-3 playoff hunting team. Great Scott against Bucking the Trend. I'm going to call that a Florida Bowl game because they're Jags and Bucks fans. And Ixan against Hunter's Chicken, which is 2, 3, and 4 teams facing off. So a little bit of intrigue there for staying alive. Where are you going to go for the marquee matchup this week, Chris?
Marquee, all round. We just spoke about it. We spoke about these 2 teams being 1 high scoring, 2 explosive, and 3 might be there at the end of the season. So let's go with Forge Flyers and Bare Necessities.
Let's do it. Okay, marquee matchup for week 8. Bare Necessities take on Forge Flyers. The Winchester division leading 4-3 Bare Necessities take on the current holder of the wildcard spot, Forge Flyers, but they are the highest scoring team at 4-3. In fact, I think both of these teams are the highest scoring teams. The projections are in favour of Bare Necessities here, 92 to 92, 92.34 to 91.83 to be exact. But as we saw on the Around the League, Forge Flyers have exceeded their projection every week so far. I think Bare Necessities might have as well, but anyway, at least for a few weeks. Looking at the lineups, George Kittle comes in for Bare Necessities over, I believe, they may have dropped it. It might have been Jawan Jennings actually, or Sam Laporta potentially. I think Michael Pittman was still in there last week and the running backs unchanged, so he's going with the 31 personnel through running backs and a tight end. On the other side of the board for Forge Flyers, Romeo Dobbs comes into the lineup in favour of, say, Flowers at the moment anyways. That's obviously linked to injury. I believe that's the only change for you, Chris, in terms of the skill players, so that is 30 personnel for you. The history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities is 9-11 all time against Forge Flyers. Yeah, good choice for marquee matchup, Chris. This has all the lookings of a humdinger.
I am looking forward to this immensely. And the reason why it is because actually this is a test of where both these teams really are. And I think that, again, because both have a very similar way of playing in the sense that it's 3 running back reliant, solid QB, and then we'll see what the receivers do after that. This could be a very even one. So let's go into it a little bit. So where we started from, the 3 running backs this season. Day's running backs, to be fair, have been absolutely outstanding, led by Derrick Henry, as we kind of expected at the beginning of the season. Moving to Baltimore would unlock, well, maybe not unlock what he can do, but certainly gives him a better chance of actually winning something.
They can't just stack the box against him, and like you say, yeah, it should be a winning team or playoff team. Yeah,
they've got more of an option to be able to win, and then say he's been a real key component in all that they've done well this season, and much the same with Mixon as well. Once he's been when he's been there, Joe Mixon has been seemingly quite solid. I'm going to say 16 overall, but he missed 3 games.
Yeah.
So that belies his pick, and then David Montgomery is sort of like the one half of the two-headed running back force in Detroit.
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles, that's way on commentary the other day. First time that he dipped below double digits the whole of this season so far was on Sunday. Again, you can't really take any of those out of the equation, and all of them, I would say, have pretty decent matchups. You'd expect Baltimore to be on the field a lot against Cleveland, and Houston playing Indy, and Detroit playing Tennessee for sure, especially at home for both of those. It will be useful. Do I like Pittman and Kittle? Well, no, but I think, again, bearing in mind where they're playing this week and against who, and the volumes that they should get, will be handy. And then Josh Allen goes across the country to Seattle, as we have known this. Whenever teams go from extremes to east to extremes west, it's always challenging. But I think there probably represents quite a challenge for him, but one that should be a very punchy game nevertheless. On the other side, and this is what I'm excited about this week, is that there are some matchups there that are really worth looking at. So Jordan Love, stacked with Romeo Dobbs, plays Jacksonville, who have been, as any Jacksonville fan, or anyone indeed has been watching the international series games over the last couple of weeks, reasonably leaky. And I think again, that's one for success. Chase has been in good form since the first couple of weeks, which were duds. There's been a lot said about him where he's been covered a lot, but I think again in Philly haven't been unbelievably good either. And then Kamara, Walker, and Gibbs. Now Kamara is injured. Let's not make no two bones about it. Kamara has broken everything in the first 7 weeks of the season, culminating in last week's display of 24 yards only. But similarly, he has been very useful aside from that. And he's the number 3 overall running back. But yeah, noticeably over the last 3 weeks since he started breaking stuff, has taken a bit of a turn. But Walker and Gibbs last week, and Gibbs did capitalise on injury, have been scoring very well. It could be a kicker off Boswell and Rijkaard, and then the Packers and Ravens at the on defense, both of them, one playing Jags, one playing Cleveland. All goes well there. So I think this won't come down to a lot, but I think I'm going to go with Dave to win because I think that his back three are in much better health than mine, and I think that Josh Allen takes the burden of that offense in Buffalo on his shoulders and will need to against Seattle. But it won't be a complete blowout win, and I hope that the team that I've got will still get a very good number of points, but I don't think it's going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ben assisted as well, but I agree with exactly everything you said, that both teams are going to score quite well, and you absolutely could win this, but yeah, I just think my dad has a little bit of an edge, just being slightly healthier. Obviously, while Dobbs, it's a nice stack with Love. Obviously, they do spread it around the Packers' receiving options. So unless he catches a touchdown, he's probably not going to do much. My dad could bring in Keenan Allen potentially as well for Michael Pittman, because obviously the Commanders' secondary isn't so great. We'll see on that one. Love is very good though, because what you want obviously when you pick your fantasy quarterback, it's not always good enough to have a good offense. Exactly the case we can see with the Chiefs, and actually even a little close time for me with CJ Stroud and the Texans, because when teams get close and they just run the ball in, obviously that's not so good for your fantasy quarterbacks. But they almost have the reverse of that with Green Bay, where Josh Jacobs is obviously a good running back. He's great between the 20s, but they don't seemingly feature him too much around the goal line, and obviously that leads to Jordan Love throwing all the touchdowns, which is exactly what you want if you have him as your quarterback in fantasy, which you do, Chris. So that's very nice, and like you said, Chase is good, but but I mean, you've got both the Lions running backs in this one. Both of them could maybe do not so great in a matchup against Tennessee, who have a pretty good run D, but equally the Lions are very good and they're at home, so they should both do reasonably well. I did like your sneaky, because I was thinking of doing the same thing pre-ad of the Ravens D as well, before they went on waivers, and that aged magnificently well. In fact, you probably did that after Watson tore his Achilles. So even if you hadn't, but you probably would have done it anyway, despite that. But I mean, if anything, that might even reduce their upside. But it's still a very good choice. But like you say, Packers D against the Jags as well, also a pretty good option. So. Injury wise for this one, I think there's lots of questions all over the board, but I think they will all end up playing. And just a note on Kittle as well, given that I think Juwan Jennings has just been listed as doubtful. We know Ayuk's out, and Debo's trying to come back from pneumonia. He could be quite heavily used, so that again just further leans into our picks of my dad's team this week, no doubt. And my dad has 8 points on the board from a warrior card, which is okay. So our next game, then, we will now go on to the preview of that. Again, two teams with winning records, Pakistan and Le Creuset. Le Creuset leading the division, second seed in the league, and a 3-game winning streak against Pakistan at 4-3, chasing the division down. The lead is in favour of Pakistan at the moment, 22 to 86 after Thursday Night Football. The projections have Pakistan winning 90 to 86. And Sam Darnold got him 22 points on Thursday night for Pakistan. Elsewhere across the lineup, I believe the rest of it is unchanged, so 30 personnel. Sorry, actually no, CeeDee Lamb is back from bye, so that will presumably have dropped Jordan Addison to the bench here, I believe. So yeah, third personnel for Pat. Excuse me. On the other side of the board for La Creuset, let's see. I can't fully recall who we played last week, actually, to be honest. As in maybe bought... Is it unchanged? Or is it bought Terry McLaurin in?
No, McLaurin was there.
Yeah, I think he's unchanged then. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, let's go with that. 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. You are, oh, not your goal, but Le Creuset are 9-3 all time against Palestine. My goodness. Yeah, so, wow, I mean, another win. Le Creuset remains atop the Southampton division. Chris, a win for Palestine obviously keeps them alive in the playoff race. So, interesting time for these two to meet as well, because neither of them, I think, have been really dominant. So it's always interesting when you get two level teams facing off against each other like this.
I totally agree, and I don't think that there's the problem that Ollie has. I think is that there are some teams that are going to be on the back foot a little bit, possibly. We think Carolina, they're playing in Denver. Don't like that. Don't like Pollard against Detroit as well, because I think GameScript's going to completely dominate them. McLaurin and London. Again, you don't know what days you're going to get. I think against Chicago, that's a difficult one for Washington, or at least more so. I think going away to Cincinnati for Jalen might be a fun game to watch, but I don't know quite how that will kind of work out for them. I just there's so many question marks over Le Creuset, apart from obviously the quality stoneware. There's no question marks over those. Whilst for Pat, he's got a lot of players that are going to be on offense a lot. You look at Achan, you look at Cook, Connor, Thomas, and CeeDee Lamb for that matter as well. And all of them are, I would say, maybe other than CeeDee, but again, San Francisco haven't looked kind of similar to what they were last year. But I would say that there's definitely some plus matchups there and some fun ones too. Chargers against New Orleans, we saw them get beat down last week. The New Orleans, that is. So again, defensive, that's completely terrible. So for me, do I dislike Pollard, Hubbard, and Neighbors as matchups enough to think that's probably going to blow a hole in the week? Yeah, and that's why I'm going to go for Pat.
Yeah, and I'm very on the borderline about whether I lock Pat's team, because it's one of those classic cases of, it's like when you pick your fantasy defense. You obviously want to play the really good fantasy defense, but if you can't do that, you play the defense that has the juiciest matchup, even though they could be a bit of a garbage defense themselves. That's how I feel about picking Pat's team this week. Not quite that extreme, but it's more that, like you say, Ollie has some brutal matchups. Neighbours last week proved that he's not completely Daniel Jones proof, as he seemingly did appear to be, and it's just hard to see what the upside is for his team. And like you say, for Pat's team, he's got CeeDee Lamb, James Conner could be okay. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lock up Pat's team here. Let's do it, because I still think Lamb should have a good day. They've got to get it going, come out of the bye week, because it's just not been going so well for the Cowboys so far. Connor, Cook, and Achan is a pretty damn good trio to have, and the matchups there don't scare me any way around. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and lock Palestine. It could be one of those bad weeks for Ollie's team. I hate to say it, because, like you say, it's just some not so great matchups. I think the only kind of skilled position player there I really like is Drake London, playing against Tampa, and even then we obviously know with Atlanta and Kirk Cousins that receiving options can disappear at a moment's notice. So yeah, in terms of injuries, Jalen Waddle was a quadriceps injury, but I believe should play. Tua has obviously been cleared from the concussion protocol and will play. Jerome Ford, not sure what's going on with him, but it doesn't really matter too much here. So yeah, nothing else too much to speak of there. So we'll go on to our next game. Great Scott takes on Bucking the Trend in the Florida Bowl. Great Scott 4-3, trying to chase down the division lead. Tied at the moment with Bucking the Trend trying to keep up in the playoff race at 3-4. Projections have this one going the way of Great Scott, 89-83, 11 points on the board, courtesy of Cooper Cup already. For Great Scott, their lineup is unchanged, so they're going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Meanwhile, for Bucking the Trend, I believe he is also unchanged at the moment, so 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Bucking the Trend, or I've got Great Scott here. Great Scott are 1-0 all time, so they've only faced each other once. And does Mike get his first win against Jeff here or not, Chris?
For me, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I mean, I think that that Jeff's been sneaky good coming out or coming down the mountain from halfway. We noticed last week that those 3 of Williams, Hall, and Bigsby are really progressing this team along quite nicely. As you mentioned earlier on, Jaden Reed is there as well, and I think that that having him against Jacksonville in that offense, there's always a chance that somebody's going to go big. It wasn't him last week, but obviously injury played a part. But then again, Kyler against Miami as well. I think that's going to be a fun one. Broncos are going to beat down Carolina, especially at home. So for me, I think that's just an unachievable thing to aim for. My team isn't bad by any means, but it does seem to be underperforming in certain areas, particularly at receiver. I think Jacobs and Robinson are okay and serviceable. I think the Jets do well against New England. But yeah, question marks over Gino, maybe.
Yeah, he's like middling. He's like, he's not going to probably let you down, but he's not going to have like an upside game.
No. So, but the bench is interesting for me for Mike, because I think if he looked at it, there's definitely seeing the ways the wind blows. Obviously, DeAndre Swift has had some very good games for Chicago over the last 3 weeks up to the bye, so I think he must come in over Chase Brown, and I think Amari Cooper deserves to come in over JSN at this point as well.
He could choose to go with Mahomes against Vegas too, potentially. If any game Mahomes is going to have a decent day, it's going to be against this Vegas team.
You would think it would be them, just because they're just trying to trade off everything that's good. Bring those in, different story. But as the team shows in front of me right now, I'm going to go for Great Scott.
Yeah, likewise. I think I didn't hit on it with Pat, but I don't like Brian Thomas so much this week because the Packers secondary and pass defense is proved to be quite good, but the running defense is the weakness. And Bigsby plays them. He's been pretty good. Like you say, I just watched New England get torn to shreds by Tank Bigsby, so Breece Hall's going to have a field day. And yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Javonte, but in a plus matchup, it's fine. We know the Broncos just want to play defense and run the ball, so like you say, it's all lining up on that front. And he's got the Broncos defense too. Murray is, I think, actually the weak spot, if anything, of this team, because Murray has not been great, which, we would have thought he would have been good. But again, I don't think it's going to matter too much here, just because, like you say, Mike's team not bad, but he's just not got really any options that, blow up. It's not necessarily the best of matchups in most cases for a lot of those guys too. So yeah, like you say, pretty cut and dry. Injury-wise, Jaden Reed, questionable. Not exactly sure what his injury is, but I've not seen it being anything too serious, so I imagine he'll play. Juwan Jennings, as I say, he's doubtful with his hip injury. Mike Evans has been ruled out. Jameson Williams is suspended. Juju's already been ruled out with the hamstring. Bucky Irvin is questionable, but I think he's quite iffy to play from what I saw earlier in the week. So that's that. We'll go on to our next game now. Ixan take on Hunter's Chicken here. 2, 3, and 4 teams looking to keep their playoff hopes alive. The projections say it's going to be a bit of a gritty low scorer, 80-72 in favour of Hunter's Chicken, who have 12 points on the board already, courtesy of Justin Jefferson. In terms of other changes for Ross's team, Trey McBride comes in after losing Brandon Ayuk for the season, and I believe the rest of the lineup is unchanged. So he's got 31 personnel out, 3 running backs, tight end and wide receiver. For Ixan, let's see here, Calvin Ridley comes from the waiver to the starting lineup, and I think, does Jerry Jeudy come in as well? Quite possible.
unfortunately. So.
Right, okay, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, he's fielding the 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup at all time, Ben is 8-5 against Ross's team. Yeah, I understand why the projections are pretty low for this one, Chris. This is yeah, pretty gross. As you know what, I'm sat here at 1-6. I'm like, how am I 1-6 when I look at these teams? Quite frankly,
yeah,
not to mess about, but go on.
No, well, please don't mess about. So I think that's the point here. Is that yeah, these are 2 disgusting teams. Yeah. Let's try and break it down as diplomatically as we can then. So things I like about Ross's team.
2 stars and a wish.
Okay, Steelers are playing the Giants. That's good.
I feel like the pause there to find a positive would just further add salt in the wound of trying to take this seriously.
Yep, I can't take it seriously, I'm afraid. It's difficult. Oh, Nick Chubb might get lots of volume.
Yeah, we'll see how much they feature in second game back. Because
Rating as well.
It's Burrow or bust. That's all we need to say at this point, isn't it?
That's probably it. And actually, for Ben, it's Barkley or bust possibly as well. Mayfield might do all right against Atlanta. To be fair, fuck knows who he's going to throw to. But yeah, Barkley against Cincy is going to be good. I can't tell you how much I hate the fact that Jerry Jeudy's playing against Baltimore, and Evan Ingram's playing against Green Bay, and Cowboys playing against Detroit. They might as well not be there.
Why did he not activate Puka and play him? That's my question. I get first game back and tough matchup, but God, you drafted the guy in the second round. Like, given your starting scrubs like Ingram, Judy, and Ridley.
How much worse can it get? So, yeah, this is going to be a terrible game. The Ross might win on running back volume and his D and Burrow, maybe. But it's not going to be one for the ages. Let's go with Ross.
Yeah, oh god, yeah. It all hinges on Barkley, I think, because if Barkley can blow up against what's not been a great Cincy Rundy, and Ben can get something out of the quarterback position, he could probably get enough. But that's banking on a couple of things there. Whereas Burrow's almost certain to have a good game, I would say. Like you say, the Steelers can probably have a laugher against the Giants, and then if Ross gets anything from the other players there, then he's home and dry. And he has got 12 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the context of this game, it could well be.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'd agree with your assessment there. Yeah, both picking Ross's team. Injury-wise, Cam Ridley, he's questionable, but I think he should be good to go. DK Metcalf.
Highly questionable, I would say.
Highly questionable, wow. DK Metcalf, again, he's very questionable. I don't believe he's practiced yet this week, so he obviously got carted off on the game on Sunday, so again, he might not play. Quentin Johnson, again, I know he's been banged up and missing time, but possibly not an option for Ben anyway. ETN, he's going to be very questionable for Sunday too, but he's obviously been usurped by Tank Bigsby. Curtis Samuel's already been ruled out, and that is it. So let's go on to our next game. Gridiron Gang take on Oakland Golden Bears in what is currently the Toilet Bowl, the 12th and 11th ranked teams with 1-6 and 2-5 record between them. Gridiron Gang on a 6-game losing streak, looking to snap that, winning week 1 and nothing since. Excuse me, but they are projected to win 89 to 81. 3 points on the board for Oakland Golden Bears already, courtesy of the Vikings defense. Looking at the lineup, so I believe, actually no, I think he had Kirk Cousins already in last week. But I think he has potentially brought Darnell Mooney and Jonathan Taylor, I think, and Marvin Harrison have all come into the lineup. I'm not even going to try and cast my mind back to who else Freddie played last week because it was a bit of a mixed bag. But he's going with the 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs, 2 receivers. For my team, DJ Moore comes back into the lineup from bye. George Pickens comes into the lineup too in favour of, who was I playing last week? Oh yeah, Jordan Whittington, of course, and Deebo Samuel. Who goes to the bench, so I'm going with the 20 personnel as well. 2 running backs, 2 receivers. This is obviously our first time playing each other as well. I might have a better week than 38 points this week, Chris. Thoughts?
I would suggest that you should. There's no reason why you wouldn't have a better week than 38 points. Yeah, there's some guys in there that can actually score some points this week rather than all die on you, which would be good.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
So I think Stroud's an infinitely better matchup. As does Moore, as does Dobbins, Pickens. They're okay, not too bad. Lions certainly do. So that's okay. That might get you 38 points alone.
I hope so.
Yeah. What's on the other side? In a weird twist of fate, if you notice, everybody's playing away.
Wow. Yeah. I love that you pick up on this stuff because you just... I don't spot it, but yeah, you're right. Everyone's playing away.
Everyone's playing away. And I'm never convinced that's a good thing. But look, Cousins and Mooney, I like the stack against Tampa. Just in isolation, that's good. I think Devonta Smith was seen some sketchy numbers. He's obviously saw a -0.2 last week.
Lovely.
So yeah, that's not good. But it's been double figures more often than not. Hunt and Taylor, I love, especially in those two matchups. I think Marvin Harrison against Miami should be considerably better, but has been quite up and down. Albeit against two reasonably. So he scored 3.6 against San Francisco, fair enough away. Missed a game against Green Bay, and then Chargers again, defensive team. And he scores 21 yards combined. So I'm not completely out on him yet. Tucker, but the Vikings D there, 3 points, not grand. So yeah. Look, those two running backs could be devastatingly good. Cousins on his day, as we've seen. Again, in good matchups is good, but very up and down season through 7 games. Dart throw on some of the others. Certainly Mooney.
I think we need to remember the fact here that I seem to bring out the best in teams this year, Chris, because obviously...
Yeah, I know, and I'd have to say the Hunt, Taylor, Harrison trifecta could be very good if Cousins scores well at QB.
Yeah, we need to remember Freddie has been without Jonathan Taylor for a few weeks, so yeah, getting him back, if he gets a full workload, even though it's not the best of matchups, it's obviously still a boost to him for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to go with him but again, you can only do better than last week, and I think that would be anchored by Stroud and the Lions D.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna pick my team. I'm gonna have the confidence that I can get back on the horse. Would not surprise me in the slightest if I somehow found another way to lose a game. But Tyreek's getting Tua back, although Tyreek, I mean, they seem quite insistent on him playing, but he popped up with this foot issue yesterday, and it apparently wasn't seen practicing today, so we'll see what that's about. But I actually have some options on the bench this week I can turn to if I need to. DJ Moore comes back in a good matchup, like you said. Dobbins is a cake matchup against the Saints. Pickens with Wilson seems rejuvenated. Can Jordan Mason have one last great day against this terrible Dallas run defense before McCaffrey returns? Like you say, I've got the Lions detail. And Stroud should have a better day. I think it's signing up. My team has showed a ceiling this season. Let's not forget, until my absolute crater of a week last week, I was, I think, still the 5th highest scoring team. And again, outside of another iffy week, I had been scoring quite well. So it is easy for myself to feel quite down. But I do need to remember this team has actually put some good scores on the board. So I can only hope it will return to that this week. So,
Yes.
We'll go to our last game of the week now then. Probably the other contender for marquee matchup, so fitting that we finish with it. The Dream Team, 5-2, leading the league, take on Tom's Tyrants at 4-3, one of the highest scoring teams. Dream Team on a 3-game win streak, Tom's Tyrants on a 2-game losing streak. Projections are in favour of the Dream Team, 87-77, with Tom Tyrants having a 27-point lead already, courtesy of Aaron Jones and Kyron Williams, who got 10 and 18 respectively. And Tom does need to put his defense in, which will boost his projection, but albeit will still be in favour of the Dream Team. Looking at the lineup, so Tom Tyrants is unchanged at the moment, and that could be very questionable because Jaden Daniels is a game-time decision at the moment with his rib injury, but at the moment he's rocking the 20 personnel, 2 ranks and 2 receivers. For the Dream Team, I believe he is unchanged at the moment also, so excuse me, he's going 10 personnel, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. The Dream Team are 7 and 11 all time against Tom's Tyrants. So, does Viv win here and remain as the first seed, Chris?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. I think that's a very, very saleable lead that Tom's put up. Obviously, he's effectively two men down in the projections. Deontay Johnson comes out there, and presumably Rashad White comes in, or Kelsey comes in. But either way, I think both of them are solid guys to come in, plus a defense. So yeah, for me, 17 points plus 9 is good. I think Amon Ra's in for a good day. Higgins has been very solid, consistently solid through 3 weeks. Jaden Daniels should be back. And if he is, then that's going to be one of those that could be slightly era defining. Washington, Chicago, I think, and I think that definitely bodes well for his fantasy outlook. So no, I think Tom Tyrant's in the driving seat. As you mentioned earlier on, it's interesting that you say Lamar's paper over some cracks, because actually the composition of this team now, I'm not massively convinced about it, even though they did beat me last week, obviously, with that same lineup. But yeah, Chiefs are going to do all right against Vegas, you would think. Harris is going to get a workhorse's workload in a Steelers team that seems to be turning the corner. But yeah, those two Jets, who knows, against New England, who very well knows. And yeah, Tank Dell did nothing last week, even though he's projected 8.2. But there's guys on the bench there you could bring in. You could bring in Hopkins straight away. You could probably bring Dunze in and do just as well. So yeah, but the threat of Lamar Jackson is a thing. And again, against Cleveland, do they need to work that hard to win this game? I don't know.
It's a tricky thing about fantasy. It's very dark when your team's projected or should win so comfortably. It actually becomes a bad thing, doesn't it? It's a very hard thing to balance.
But my gut feeling was Tom straight away. I know he's got a 27-point lead straight off the bat, but my gut feeling was him. And I will caveat this by saying that obviously he brings in who we wanted to, and his quarterback is fit. If Daniels isn't fit, I will flip to Viv straight away. But if that's the team that there is, that we sort of predict there might be, Tom.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think he needs Daniels because taking a peek at the quarterback free agency at the moment is not great looking. The best option is probably Anthony Richardson, or Bo Nix. That kind of sums up. It could be, but it could also be a lot better. I think this I think Viv's team is one of those teams where he needs Jackson to have a big day for his team to have a very good day. If Jackson doesn't have a good day, I don't think there's enough there for the rest of the team to necessarily put up a great score. They can still have a good score, not a great score, whereas Tom's team has been one of the better scoring ones. Obviously Daniels has been a part of that. He could survive not having Johnson for sure. So yeah, I'd agree with your assessment there. I will go Tom's Tyrants on the assumption that Daniels plays. And that is it for the previews. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed the return of the LOC report. After a few weeks off, we should be here now again every week. Thank you for rejoining again as well, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome. So glad to be here. It's good to talk about the sport.
Definitely.
And I hope that you find it useful at home as always.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I will open up the weekend for you guys and wish that you have a good weekend. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you play me, of course. And no more NFL games, of course. So if you want to watch the NFL game, mine again on Sundays, you're welcome to. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good one.